If you're in Quebec and never struggled to find a doctor, then you need to see this. On 25th of October 2025, Quebec's National Assembly passed Bill 2, which fundamentally changes how doctors are being paid for their profession. So let's get into the details and see what has changed finally. In 7th century BC, there was a Greek lawmaker called Draco. He was the first one to write the laws, and when given the responsibility to write punishments, he gave the most brutal punishments for even the smallest of crimes. If you murder someone, death penalty. If you steal a gold coin, death penalty. If you steal an apple, still death penalty. And because of these strict punishments, there was a term coined called draconian law. This is what Quebec doctors are calling New Bill 2, a draconian law which will lead to exodus of doctors from Quebec. So let's understand the Bill 2 in 6 major points. First of all is performance-linked pay. So 10% of doctors' income will now be tied to performance targets. That is to say, all general practitioners in Quebec need to provide together 17.5 million appointments per year. On top of it, the specialists must perform 97% of the surgeries within the 12 months period of their request. The government is saying that these targets are meant to boost volume of care, and if met, the doctors will even be provided bonuses on top of their pay. But in case these targets are not met, then that part of the compensation will be gone. The second one is pay freeze until 2028. So for the next 2.5 years, the base compensation of physicians will remain the same. No matter what the inflation rate is or what the cost of living is going on in the next 2.5 years, the base pay will still remain the same. The third one is mandatory public sector service for new doctors. So all newly trained physicians must practice in Quebec's public health system for the first 5 years. They are not allowed to do a private practice or even leave the province. And in case they decide to do so, there could be fines up to $200,000 per day. So the health minister says this is to retain the talent and to curb the recent trends wherein newly qualified doctors move out of the province once their education is completed. The fourth one is restrictions on mobility. So even after the end of 5 years, the doctors are not allowed to move out of the province unless they have the approval of Santé Quebec. And if the agency decides that the region is understaffed, permission can be denied for relocation or significant change in practice. The fifth one, and the most interesting which I found myself, was a ban on collective pressure tactics. So the law uses a term called concerted actions, and if the doctors are found doing those concerted actions, there could be hefty fines. For example, if a group of 3 doctors decide to slow down their workload, refuse any medical trainings given to students, or even jointly resign from the hospital, it's all illegal now. The law says that these group of people can jointly see a fine up to $500,000 per day, with the individual physicians facing fines up to $20,000 each day again. The critics are saying this law criminalizes normal collective bargaining practices as well. The most affected out of this change will be the general practitioners. Because they have a collective target of 17.5 million, even if you try to do your work properly and there's a lazy bum out there, you're gone. The doctors are arguing that this law encourages fast food medicine, prioritizing quantity over quality. The specialists are also saying that the 97% target of 12 months period, it's totally unrealistic. Roughly 1/3 of Quebec's operating rooms are already out of function because of resource constraints. So unless they have something on their hand, they can't go out and perform the surgeries itself. The only exemption which is provided is to doctors above 63 years of age, and Quebec has roughly 22% of the doctors above 60 years. But there's a concern that many of them will be now pushed into early retirement because of these changes. Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, has already opened arms for these doctors. Ontario saw roughly 70 Quebec physicians applying for a license to practice over there in the week of the bill itself, which is like a huge uptick from the normal cycle. I hope you now understand why the doctors are protesting on the street, and hopefully we reach a nice conclusion. In the end, I'm a CPA and a mortgage agent. If you're looking for one, there's a form in the description. Just fill it out and we'll get in touch.